Hi, this is Garrett Sutton, and you're listening to the Average Joe Finances Podcast.
If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you smash the like and subscribe buttons. If you're listening to our podcast, go leave us a 5-star review. All of our links can be found in the video description or show notes below.
Welcome back to the Average Joe Finances Podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Schultz, the Money Life Coach, and today's guest is Larisa Olteanu from Unshakable Wealth. Welcome, Larissa, to the podcast. We're so excited to have you join us today. Welcome, welcome.
Hey, so awesome to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And let's just jump right in. You have a really cool story. Your background is very inspiring and just all the stuff that you've done. So tell us a little bit about yourself and share your story. Like, how did you get here today?
Yeah, it's been a journey. So I stayed in the US with $20. I had no English knowledge, no acquaintances, and a lot of drive, determination, grit to do something better than what I've experienced in my childhood. And what I'm specifically talking about is had a very interesting, maybe you as a listener could relate to this, very interesting, spicy childhood, so to speak. It was a lot of situations where parents wouldn't get along, a lot of physical situations specifically, and I don't mind sharing that. I remember walking in the kitchen and I was 6 and I see my stepdad holding my mom by one foot outside of our 5th floor apartment and screaming that he's gonna let her go. Now, I typically would get in between them when arguments like this would happen, and my instinct is to save my mom's life. So I leaned over and I asked him to calm down and to pull her back, which he did. He yanked her back in and looked at her and said, "You're lucky you have your daughter."
Wow.
And that has created a lot of maturity in me, a lot of responsibility, and it has served me really well. Now, as you can imagine, with a life that is as crazy as that, my mom decided to divorce, and we ended up in a very difficult situation in terms of money, where we had none. So,
Right.
she
Yeah.
had to leave and moved to a different country because she did not have an education. She was a stay-at-home mom and she couldn't pay the bills. So I found myself at 16 raising a 4-year-old, which was my brother, on a $133 budget, half of which would go to his medication. And that taught me a lot about money and how to manage it and how to be wise about it. Would it be enough? No. We had the bills authorities come and like bang at our door asking for payments, and had our neighbors connect electricity illegally back in Moldova. This is where I'm from.
Oh, wow. Done that before. Oh my
I've
God.
been there. I've done it. I know how it feels to be there. So if you as a listener have been there, I know how you felt. And if you are there, I know how you feel.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everyone's childhood definitely impacts the journey that they take, especially I've noticed that in the financial space of wanting to learn, or you were like forced into it too, which I was in high school as well, with my parents getting divorced and me having to take on that role. So what was it? Did you just step up to that, or how did you navigate that? And then how did you decide what you were going to do in your future? Like, how did you turn that around?
Yeah, so basically there was no training for it. Mom left, I'm by myself. at 16 with a 4-year-old. I have to cook, clean, take him to school, take myself to school, and then budget and pay all the bills. So it wasn't like my mom sat down and said, hey, this is what you do. No, it was like, okay, she's gone. Now I'm handling it. And I would say that I always give glory to God with everything that He has given me in terms of mental abilities and my skills and my ways to be able to handle things in life. But all of those things, I have to say, that I've described in my childhood have brought so much greatness in my life, so much advancement, and they came to surface in so many ways, in so many places, me realizing it or not realizing it. For instance, when I stayed in the US, I didn't know English, right? So if you think about the situation when you're dropped in, you have to raise a child with whatever you have to raise and just roll with it. I was in the US not knowing English. I was told that I would be a server because I came on a work and travel visa. And I didn't even understand when the manager said that I was going to be a server. She decided that based on me, hi, my name is Larissa, and I study at technical university. That my English was super amazing. And I've literally learned that 10 seconds before I said it because the girl that was sitting next to me was studying languages. She was from my country. And I asked her, hey, how do I say this in English? So she told me, and I was repeating in my head while my turn was coming around for this manager to decide based on our English where they're going to place us. Because there was an option to be placed like a server or a bus boy. So then she was like, you're going to be a server. And I'm like, what did she say? She said, you're going to be a server. I'm like, okay. So I'm throwing into this and I am learning the American culture. I'm learning the spoken and unspoken language and manners and stuff like that. Being thrown into things and approaching it as not, oh my gosh, like a victim mindset, what is life doing to me, but more of what do I need to do the next step? And that's something that I want to highlight here. Whenever you find yourself in an overwhelming situation, whenever you are scared or afraid or feel like you're procrastinating because you're too overtaken by what you need to do next, just think of the first step. What is the first step that I need to do? So put the foot in front of the other. Because it's the same as saying eat the elephant in one bite, right? No, take it back. What is the first bite that you need to have and then move from there? So those are the things that impacted in terms of being thrown to stuff and making it an opportunity and seeing it as a blessing rather than a setback.
Yeah.
And then when I stayed, I was like, I am going to college. Like there's no way I'm staying in US without getting a degree.
Okay.
That's for a couple of reasons. I believe in education strongly. And second, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. She didn't have an education. So she would always say the whole thing that everyone pretty much experienced that are listening, go to college, get a degree, get a job, and is the way for life, right?
Yeah.
Now, growing up now and going through things, I don't feel like that's the way. That's one way. And then the second thing she would tell me that stuck with me is, and I wanna, it's like a big motto for me that I tell my kids now, is no matter what you do in life, no matter what you build in life, people can take everything away from you, but they will never, ever be able to take what you have right here in your brain, right? Your knowledge, your education, and your experiences. So I was like, need a college degree.
Yeah.
Working my way through college and getting a finance degree.
Okay.
I was thinking, okay, well, what am I good at? Now, when you grow up, and that's something that you as a listener might find a lot of value because I didn't realize that until I had to sit through and think. When you live in a household like that, you don't have much time, or if you have a lot of turmoils, divorce and stuff, you don't have much time to explore your passions, your gifts, because you're in flight or fight mode.
Yep.
So with that, I didn't have that awakening in my childhood where I would say, oh, I'm amazing at X or Z or whatever,
Yeah.
which meant I had to sit down and say, okay, what am I doing good? And then I did ask some other people, what do you see me doing flawlessly without me thinking that comes to me naturally? Because I
Okay.
didn't even have time to introspect like this.
Yeah.
And like I was throwing into raising a child with the budget that I had,
Yeah.
that kind of came natural. And I like math, and it pays well. It pays well.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm gonna do. And I went for finance.
That's really cool. Yeah. Obviously, having to go through that as a child can be super traumatic, or it is traumatic, and impacts every area of your life. And to be able to turn it around for good and not play the victim or fault, like, because a lot of people in life, it's just like that becomes their whole life story of like why this happened to them. You know what I mean? And they don't take it for good. And I feel like your ability to turn that around is really inspiring. And then just what you built from there. So yeah, get into a little bit now of like what you do now and going from this finance degree to Unshakable Wealth and being able to help like so many CEOs and entrepreneurs with their wealth and helping. This is a really cool, like how you transition to that is amazing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to, before I get into that, I wanted to just really highlight what you said, Tanya, about changing from victim mindset to a victor mindset.
Mhm.
And it's so important because you could get trapped in this whirlpool of victim. Like, why is this happening? Why my parents were like this? Why am I living in this neighborhood? Why am I coming from the zip code? There could be a lot of whys.
Mhm.
But flipping the coin and training your mind to say, how
Yeah.
can I get out of this? How can I build what I'm wanting to build? Now, I would not say that the process is easy.
Yeah. Definitely
It
not.
is, it is hard. And I wanna give an example here that illustrates this perfectly. Imagine you broke your leg, and that leg, the bone healed in an like a crooked way. You're walking, you live through life, and it's painful, but you've got accustomed to this pain. And you know that if you would go to the doctor, they will have to break that bone again and put it into a cast to properly heal it. But that pain is going to be greater for a shorter period of time than is the pain that you're living with right now.
Yeah.
However, if you go through that greater pain for a shorter period of time, you're not going to experience pain forever
Yeah, for
for
sure.
the rest of your life. So we live with this accustomed pain
Yeah.
and avoid ripping the band-aid and going getting our leg broken to have a pain-free life. Not completely pain-free life, but thinking about that and the fact that we need to break ourselves in terms of who we are and of the old identity, in the old identity,
Yeah.
and start building this new identity. And that's where the heart is. It's not really, I always say it's not hard to make $1 million. It's not hard to build a business. It's not, what is hard is the person that you need to become and the chipping and the chiseling that you need to go through
Yeah.
to be the $1 million person or the business person, or let's take it out of money context, the best parent, the best husband, the best wife. There is a transformation that needs to happen. So with that, going back to your question, Tanya, how did I transition?
Yeah.
Getting a finance degree, I got on board with ExxonMobil, and I was very clear on my goal of getting with a top company.
Okay.
Not only because they're a top, but because I love that they're ethical. Some might say debatable. I work for them, and I absolutely love that company.
Love it. Okay.
Their high level of integrity. And I had a situation back in my childhood what kind of got stuck with me in terms of investing in real estate. And that was at some point, my stepdad and his brother own a metal company, and they were printing money like crazy. The way I saw the money is going to gambling, partying, and all of that, and all that vanished. So I also say to entrepreneurs, and if you are in a 9 to 5, the skill of making money, it's completely different than the skill of managing money.
Yeah,
And you
for
have
sure.
to master both to be for the equal part of the equation to be great. And in their case, making money was not an issue. Managing money was a big issue.
Yeah.
So while they were having the business conversation, I was playing, and they were, if you have kids, don't think the kids don't hear. They hear everything you're saying.
Yeah, for
Even
sure.
if they play. So I remember my brother, my stepdad's brother said, hey, we need to invest this money in assets, and that means real estate. If you put money under a mattress, if you put money in a bank account, inflation is gonna erode it. There's absolutely no smartness in having that money under a mattress or in a bank. You've got to invest it. And the best place to invest it is real estate because it's a human basic need. So that just sunk into my conscious and then in my subconscious.
Yeah.
And then when I got the job, I'm like, okay, time to invest. Not only I had no idea what 401k was,
Yeah.
but one of the managers said, hey, if you invest in, by the way, amazing manager, John, if you invest in a 401k, you'll retire from here a millionaire. That was enough for me. He didn't have to say more. I'm like, okay, great. I'm going and signing up. And when I signed up, I was like, I have no idea what these percentages mean, what gibberish that meant. I'm like, but I think 20% here and 5% here and 5% here looks good, and I'm done.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, I've studied finance. So the personal finance and corporate finance and investing, it's another thing
different.
for another podcast. Might need to come back to that.
Yeah.
But once I got that in, I was like, time to get back to the basic need, real estate. So I started investing in real estate. And through investing in real estate I've started to be more aware and more conscious of investing in myself, in my personal development journey, in learning about personal wealth. And particularly, I would say that another instance that I had in my life is I was right when the time that I was new to US, I was going to a party and I didn't know the person. I didn't know where they lived. I was just, okay, well, we're going to a party. And as we're driving through the neighborhood, I'm looking at these houses, which were huge. And the question that is just keep rotating in my mind is, what the heck do these people do to be able to afford these houses? Now, mind you, I came from the poorest country in Europe and I lived very poor. Even though for that period of time that I said they had a lot of money, we still didn't live in a house that was lavish or anything because they were just spending the money where I said they were spending. Right. So seeing these castles, it was like, what do they do? And then the second question was, why in the world do they need such a big house? Like,
yeah.
Bikes through them, or
what is going on? Yeah, that's a good, I know. That's
yeah, so we drive to the house and I walk in, amazing people. So it's another thing that it was incredible. I had the idea of that rich people are evil and would take things away from you and they're so bad. I don't know, Tanya, did you had any examples or any situations like this where you had like a shift in your thoughts?
Oh yeah, definitely. Some of my family growing up, like they started making more money and became like wealthier than us. I lived like lower middle class, I would say, growing up, but always paycheck to paycheck. And then like when they started making more money, I remember people in my family, other family members, now I can see it's like jealousy or things like that, but they would be like, oh, I can't believe they bought that new car. And they're just like this whole belief around they shouldn't have that. That's too much. Like, why do they have this bigger house? And same thing, like that kind of like yeah, it was essentially rich people are, it's telling you that subconsciously that having money makes you a bad person or something. But yeah, over time, I live in a pretty expensive area now where people all have second homes and they're massive, like you said. And just being around that more and meeting people who are super generous and are like more down to earth than a lot of people who are flashy and like same thing like what you were saying with your dad and brother. Like I had an ex who made a ton of money and just spent it all too. So I've seen all of it. You know what I mean? It's super interesting. But I think just seeing what you were saying about you had proof or you were seeing like, oh, people are doing this and how are they doing this? And you're getting curious. Because the biggest thing that people make, here comes my special guest, my cat.
Hello.
Yeah, the biggest mistake is the judgment side. It's no, let's get curious about how are they doing this? What are they doing? Get interested in that. And then that will lead you to potentially be able to do that in your life or just learn from them. Because obviously they have a lot of things. Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you share this, because one thing that I've struggled and I had to overcome is the fact that when I start having money, if I would buy something, I would have that in my mind of, like you mentioned, they were thinking like that's too much. Why would they do that? I was thinking that's too much for me. There's people starving, and I felt like I was taking away
Yep.
by getting the stuff from me. And it's such a fallacy, and it's sabotaged so much in my path. And then the realization that money is not scarce. There's enough for everyone. One. Second, you're not taking. The more I have, the more I can give.
Yeah.
And the more peace of mind that my basics are covered and my needs are covered, the more I have the brain, the heart capacity to give. So basically, the more my cup is full, the more I can give to the thirsty. But if I am depriving one and feeling the way I was feeling, I don't really have to give from a place of abundance and love, rather than I give out of lack and scarcity. And that's not.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So that's what you're saying. The mindset piece is a huge part of it, right? Is like unwinding a lot of stuff and beliefs that we've had and rewriting those or creating new beliefs and your identity. It is so tied to how you grew up and what you learned. And then that feeling of guilt and shame around, oh, I shouldn't drive this nice car because what is so and so going to say? I don't want them to feel bad. You know what I mean? Things like that. Yeah. It's even like sometimes when I post, I'm always like, are people going to think like this is too much? But normally I'm like, no, I'm sharing it to inspire. It's like how you put it out there. Because there are those people who are very flashy and just want to be seen like that. But it's also, I think, can be motivating and inspiring for other people. So, yeah,
Yeah.
how did you kind of transition to your business and doing what you do with others? Like, how did you create Unshakable Wealth? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so with the investing journey, I decided that, again, since I have big belief in education, I wanted to get my MBA. I was the first one to graduate with a bachelor's, and I really wanted to go further than that. And that meant taking a break from me in general, from, hey, I want to do some introspection too. I had 2 kids at that time. They were very little, 2 and 4 months. So we were doing school together. I was taking my 4-month-old with me to every single MBA class, and we would nurse, we'll change diapers and do all of that good stuff in the class. Man. So I went to ET, and then I was getting a lot of offers. According to my advisor, I got the most offers out of the entire program.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
And then I came to the aha moment that I really wanted to have a direct impact in people's lives. And I also wanted to do it throughout a book. I've been wanting to write a book since I was 7. I thought it would never be possible, but then I was like, okay, I've done all of this and it was possible. Then what's stopping me to do
Figure it out.
a book? So I decided to say no to all of the offers and go for the book and the Unshakable Wealth. And the why behind it is I've been there. I know how it feels. I know how it is to go through the breaking that I talked about. It's not easy. It's a lot of work on yourself. I know how it is to assign just fives and 20s on your 401k and have no idea what those are.
Yeah.
And more so how much of the fees are going and where they're going. I
Yeah.
know how it is to not know how to manage and be throwing in it and understand that it's not that you are broken. It's just that you don't have the knowledge.
Mhm.
Me with a finance degree and being very successful in corporate world, I still didn't have much knowledge of personal finance. And I know a lot of engineers that are brilliant, and I know a lot of doctors and nurses and project managers and IT managers and like even CEOs. It's just the personal finance side. It's not a strength because uh, either we like it or not, it's not a priority to be thought. We're not going to say who will take responsibility for that. What we'll say is that I have the ability to make a change myself and
Yeah.
hopefully create a ripple effect through the movement of Unshakable Wealth where the change happens. So instead of looking at external forces, why don't you do it and who is going to do it? Like, well, I can do it.
Yeah.
I'll make a difference.
It's taking your power back. It's no, I'm not going to have somebody else. Like for me, especially as a woman, one of the things was like, oh, the man takes care of the finances. Like, so it's like empowering yourself to be able to figure out your future and not, for me, it's not, obviously I want to retire early, but not retiring broke or having to work in retirement and not being able to enjoy that later part of your life.
Yeah, and I think about it every time I walk into a Walmart and I see an older person working. I think about every time I see very frail people giving out samples at Costco or at HEB, in my
Yeah.
case, in Texas. If you are in Texas, y'all are missing out on HEB.
Oh, for sure.
But I remember vividly whenever it was last year, and I tend to ask a lot of questions. That's part of the curiosity. So we were standing for a delicious sample. My girls love to take it, especially if it's jams or anything like that. They go crazy. And I asked the lady, very sweet lady, I said, so what brought you to be here at HEB work? I've worked and I didn't save enough and I really don't have that much to live on, so I have to work to support. And she's way beyond 65.
Yeah.
And it's really sad. And another thing that I want to go back to is, Tanya, what you said about so many women, and that's part of the big why behind the Unshakable Wealth, that are giving their power either in the hands of a spouse or whatever else,
Yeah.
and don't trust themselves enough that they can learn it and take control of their money. You take control of your money, you will have control in your life, period. You'll have power to make the choices that you want to make, and you would not have to ask permission from anyone. And that comes a lot from seeing my mom being a stay-at-home mom. When they got together, she was working and he pulled her out of work and said, no, I'll support and everything is going to be great. And next thing, 8 years down the road, she has no skills in terms of the marketplace for a job, and she has no way to support herself, and she has to leave her kids and go to another country. Prime example, a different example, had a friend of our family. They actually lived very happy, very in love. 2 kids, a business, things were going amazing. She was not doing anything in terms of finances. He was. And when he was driving home one night from a different city, a car hit him. He passed away. So now she has to deal with her spouse not being with her anymore,
Yeah.
and all of the financial stuff.
Right. Yeah. That's
And what ended up happening is she had to move back to her family.
crazy. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it could be that either you're in my mom's situation or you're in very happy situation. Either way,
Doesn't
you
matter.
take control.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love that message. Let's jump into the final round of questions. This has been an amazing conversation. I know you'll have some more insights on this final round. So let's jump in, Larissa.
Let's do
What
it.
would you say is the biggest mistake that you've made when it's come to your finances or business life?
Not investing enough in myself in the beginning. Too afraid to do that. I came from save, and that has hindered me in many ways. And then I'll even give you a bonus mistake: keeping money in a bank account.
Just sitting in a bank account, like not doing anything. Just
Not doing anything,
sitting.
yeah.
Okay.
Just giving it away to inflation. And
Yeah.
just remember, the way banks make money is by taking the money that you're putting and giving it to your neighbor or somebody else with a percent. So they're
With an
making
interest
percent
rate. Yeah.
with the interest rate, right? So you should do that too. Learn from the banks.
That's why one thing in my course that I teach in my coaching, it's one thing I say in some of the videos, like, who has the biggest buildings? The banks do. Like, the banks are in the business of making money. Like, they are not your friend. They market to you like they're your best friend. And they can be in certain instances, but yeah, it's funny how people like the banks have the biggest buildings for a reason. So you
Yeah,
need
and
to
it comes
learn.
down to becoming partnership between the banks. You can work with the bank to have the bank make you rich.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It can
Right?
work in your favor.
Turn that table around.
That's great. So what is something that you've learned that you wish you would have known when you first started out? Let's say, I don't know, when you first started out in your business or going into your business career.
I'll go back to the mindset. You cannot out earn a broke mindset.
Mm,
And it starts from within. As much as we seek external things to help us, as much as we seek the latest, greatest tools, all of those are absolutely useful. They will do the job. But if it doesn't start from the inside, no matter how great the tool is, it's just not going to work. And a prime example, look at your laptop, look at your computer, look at your Mac. And if you have the software, the Macintosh software, and if it has a virus, no matter how many gigabytes memory, how big of a screen, how shiny that screen it is, how great the keyboard is, no matter how powerful that computer is, it's just not going to work to its potential if it has a virus and your software is broken. Period.
yeah.
Raise that, put a new software, give that computer the ability to work as its best and highest potential.
Yeah. No, for sure. That's a really good analogy. I love that one too. It's like you got to clean out what's the inside and reprogram yourself. Program. Do you have any tips or tricks that you recommend for someone who's just getting started investing or figuring out their finances? What are some tips or tricks?
So I'll go into more philosophical and then I'll give you more practical.
Okay.
The philosophical part is know your why. It's just as simple. Simon Sinek said it, just he's right. Know your why.
He is right.
He's right. He's right. Because if you don't, life is just going to take you from one place to another.
Mm.
And I'll give another analogy and another example for you to have that in your mind. Think of a mountain that it sits against the sea. This is not an island, but a mountain. And imagine the waves. They're big. There's a big storm. They're hitting really hard that mountain. Now, that mountain is your why. No matter what life brings, no matter how hard it hits you, no matter how big the storm is around you, you are unmovable because of that why.
Yeah.
And some days you might not gonna want to get up out of the bed. Some days you might want to snooze. Some days you're gonna question yourself, why are you doing this? What is all this for? But if you have your why, you're gonna put one foot in front of the other and you're gonna make it happen. So that's that. Goes back to the mindset and all of the internal stuff. In terms of practical steps, I'll go back to what I said. What is the first action that you need to take? Just the first, the smallest. to build that momentum.
Yeah.
If you're talking in terms of finances, if you just start right now with $5, just start with $5 to just put it in your high yield savings account or investing $5 and then build it up. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking at how do I increase revenue, just start with one channel. If you say you're doing social media, just do one channel. You don't have to be everywhere at the same time, at the same place. One channel, then go from there. And then the other thing that is super important, get yourself in a room where you're the dumbest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your ego is going to suffer.
Yeah.
You're going to feel small, but you are going to build that vision.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to see things that are possible that you have never thought you could go after it. Because now your ceiling is different than what you had it if you're in a room where you're the smartest.
Yeah.
When you're in a room that you're the smartest, it is comfortable. It's good. It does feel awesome because we're the smartest and the best, but that's the floor. That's your ceiling. That's your ceiling for how far you're going to go. Make that transition to be at the floor at the very bottom so you can have the ceiling way better than that. And how do you do that? Some people are like, I don't have a rich XYZ to be around. And like, how do I do that? Literally Google. What restaurants do rich people hang out in LA? What restaurants do people hang out in Houston? Whatever.
Totally.
And no, some of you might be like, oh my gosh, but that means I have to go and spend the money that I don't have. No, you can go and get yourself a cup of coffee. That's it. And I know Dave Ramsey might say cacio lattes. I disagree with that. Get yourself a cup of coffee. Dress not broke. And that's another conversation. Dress nice. And strike conversations and build those networks. And if you are at the point that you can invest, get yourself in masterminds, get yourself in groups, pay your way into those environments where it's going to take you further than you've ever thought possible, but at the same time, it's going to fulfill the desires of your heart.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's really a good way to think about it because that's something that Jesse Eitzler, the founder of Spanx husband, Jesse, I don't know if you've seen him. So when he was in LA, that's what he did was go to the Beverly Hills hotel every day and he'd buy like a tea or just ask for a water. And he'd sit there at like almost 5 days a week at lunch and just talk to people. Yeah. Like how he learned. And I think even another level of that is we hang out with people who are like the same as us. We might not even be the smartest. It's comfortable because, we all think the same or we're all similar financially, whatever. So I think taking it to that next level, I know that's something that's really helped me in the last couple of years, especially think differently and ask for more money in the jobs I was getting, not be afraid, all kinds of things that's impacted. So it's
another two things practical, some bonus for you guys.
Yeah.
When you say ask for pay raises or again, it goes back to two things. That one is you obviously find the people that done what you've done, what you want to do, so you follow their footsteps.
Yeah.
The second thing is when you go into these rooms, let's say like Jesse, you go and get a water and you hang around, you might think like me, why would these people talk to me? What value can I add? I'm not at their level. The value that you can add is being a listener, being truly interested in who they are.
Yeah.
Because what you would see, it's a sea of people that is interested in their pockets and not focus on who they are as a human being.
Yeah.
And I would say this, period, across the board, rich, poor, whatever. Learn to love people and be interested truly in them. So be a listening ear. Second, once you start interacting with these people, now you've listened and you know what they do. You've had conversation with a few. Now you can be the connector. That's the value that you can add.
Yeah.
because now you hear the problems or the situations, or they know what this person is going through, and you've met another person that is actually doing and helping people with this. You can say, hey, I know this, like I met John, and I would love to connect you. So you're being the connector.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point too. Love those insights. What are some of your favorite business, investing, or real estate related books or podcasts?
I am gonna put a shameless plug here. My book,
Yes.
Destined for Wealth, the Wall Street Journal best-selling book. I have worked harder than I've worked in my life on that book. I always say I would have rather give birth to a third child than give birth to this book. At least the pain was natural when I was giving birth to a child.
God. Yeah, you're choosing the pain. Oh God.
It's very insightful, very simple. You know,
Okay.
it's very easy to make complicated things very complicated. It's very hard to make complicated things simple.
Yep.
Very simple language, to the point, actionable, and it has interviews with everyday millionaires. And if you want to know and get an insight in their brains, it's in the book. So I definitely recommend starting there. You can get it on Amazon, or if you want to get the free wealth toolkit that comes with it and some other goodies and a special price, then you can go to www.unshakablewealth.com/ebook.
Okay.
Now, as far as other books, I have been fascinated all my life with Jewish. And the reason why is, here's an interesting statistics for you guys to ponder on. Jewish community represents about 2% of the United States in terms of population. On the Forbes 400, in any given year, Jewish representation is between 60 to 100 people. So the question that I always had is, how come such a big portion of them is successful and wealthy?
Yeah.
And a book that I found very insightful is Thou Shalt Prosper by Daniel Lapin.
Okay.
It's Lapin.
Okay.
And it's a rabbi who wrote the book, and it absolutely changed a lot of the way I thought about wealth of money too. So I definitely recommend it.
Okay.
I do, as a believer and a follower of Christ, I believe that everything we do has to be anchored in God.
Mm-hmm.
But having this perspective from a Jewish person that has built wealth himself too, and from a community where they're disproportionately more wealthy than not, it's very insightful. Another classics that I really love to read once a year for sure is Think and Grow Rich.
Okay.
It's just the book that everyone probably has heard of, and if you read it every year, it's going to change your life. And I will say something after the other book that is classical is Rich Dad Poor Dad. There's controversy, you can go either way, but it changes the way you think about money and making money versus earning money versus assets and liabilities, and just covers the basics.
Totally. Yep.
So those are some of the books that I would start with, but it would not end. I would definitely not say end there. There's
I know there's so many, it's hard to say.
yeah, I tell my girls, readers are leaders.
Yeah, I love reading. That's great. I love that. Where can people find more information about you? You said some on about your book, but do you have a website, social media? Where do you hang out?
Absolutely. The best way that I can serve you guys is to give you something that will help you take action and move the needle in your life. And the best way for me to do that is to guide you to my free free money course, which is at www.unshakablewealth.com / and in this case will be Joe.
Okay.
Just because the podcast is called Joe, it's a
Great.
free course. You go and sign up for it. Again, it's www.unshakablewealth.com / Joe. You can also find me on the website, which is www.unshakablewealth.com, and shoot me an email. If you sign up for the course, you're going to get the emails, reply. I answer all the emails. I try to answer all the emails. I read all that's where you would start with me. You can also reach out to me on Instagram via DM, but email is the best way because it doesn't end up in the other box that Instagram puts stuff that I might not get to,
Oh
whatever
yeah,
that
I know it's hard to find it all.
is.
Great.
I
Yeah,
do.
we'll share those we'll share those links in the show notes and make sure everybody has those easy to access as well. Yeah, thank you so much. We're super excited to learn from you today and hear your story and just be more motivated and think about things differently when it comes to building wealth. So thank you so much for joining us, Larissa. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. And make sure you go leave that 5-star review. Let us know what you're taking away from today's podcast and share this with somebody who needs it. We know there's a lot of people out there in our lives. So share it with somebody you love. And goodbye from Lake Tahoe. And Larissa says bye from Texas, right?
Yes, y'all.
Y'all have a great rest of your day. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for making it to the end of this episode. Greatly appreciate you being here with me today on the Average Joe Finances podcast. If you haven't done so yet, make this the episode that you go leave us a 5-star rating or subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Average Joe Finances podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Have an outstanding day.